right, we are live, guys. Welcome to Real Conservative Talk. Let me fix this camera here for you guys on Facebook watching. Check the sound, make sure it's working too. Here. Yep. All right, so we're good. Again, for those of you, hadn't been on for a while. Until yesterday was the first podcast episode. We had a really good episode yesterday. I think I talked about a lot of information regarding Nancy Pelosi's insider trading, as well as, what else did we discuss? We had a good one yesterday. Next thing, go check out the federalreport.com. The articles I've been submitting, those are articles I personally write, just giving you guys an analysis on events that are currently going on here in the United States. I just submitted one before this podcast talking about Joe Biden's speech in Georgia yesterday. And that's what I want to talk about today on the podcast. I'm sure everyone here on Facebook and Podbeam are more than well aware of what Joe Biden said yesterday in the speech, but I'm going to recap. Biden said that he is willing to change the Senate rules to get the voting bill passed, including eliminating the filibuster. Now, let me clarify and define what the filibuster actually is for some people that may not know. The filibuster is not a rule. Okay, it's not a policy. It's not anything like that. All the filibuster is an action or a strategy. It's a tactic. And it's the tactic of delaying a vote. Literally, it is just talking and talking and talking and debating, and just like a nonstop debate in the Senate, so they cannot vote to enact legislation. Excuse me. I just ate. This is important, though. The filibuster isn't something that was like officially instated in the Senate. It came about because there's no rule or no way for the Senate to end a debate and go to a vote. There's nothing there that states so you can have these debates on these bills that are going to the Senate that need to get passed, and these debates can just go on forever. And the minority Senate, whoever it may be at the time, is usually the one invoking the filibuster. Why? Because the majority doesn't, they want to, obviously pass whatever the proposed legislation is. It has been used a lot throughout our history. Like, when I say a lot, I want to say thousands of times. In fact, I saw an article today that said it was used hundreds of times alone during Trump's 4 years in office. The Democrats used it because, remember, when Trump first got into office, he too had a majority in the House and the Senate. Now, the difference between when Trump was in office and currently, Trump had his tax cut bill he wanted to pass. He did some executive orders, and then he tried to do the Obamacare deal, abolish that. I don't know, maybe not abolish it, but he was trying to get rid of a lot of the stuff with Obamacare. He was not able to do what he wanted to do in regards to Obamacare. But he was able to get his tax cuts passed. Right now, you have the Biden administration who was able to pass the last stimulus package in the beginning of his presidency. He just passed the infrastructure deal back in November. He then went to try and pass the Build Back Better plan. Now, Build Back Better was shot down by Joe Manchin in Sinema. The reason he was able to pass his infrastructure deal was because it was bipartisan support. Now, I don't agree with the infrastructure bill, but he was able to do so because he had Republican and Democratic support. He was not able to pass Build Back Better because he didn't have Joe Manchin, but also that didn't give him the majority. What they're trying to pass now is a voting bill. We're going to go into detail on what the voting bill is. It's HR1. In the article I wrote today, I actually attached a PDF version of the full bill, all 800 pages. You can go through and skim it. I read through a lot of it last night. And we're going to go through what that entails. But they're trying to pass a voting bill. The voting bill is supposed to, support the rights of voters. In particular, minority voters. The left has had that agenda. They've been open about it. And what they're running into is this bill has passed the House back in March. But it can't pass the Senate because Republican senators are using a filibuster and they're delaying, or they're basically just ongoing the debate for it. And the Democrats cannot end the debate to try and force a vote. In 1975, when Biden was in office, they enacted a rule. Well, they didn't enact it, they just adjusted it. There's something called cloture, CLOTURE. That is basically the majority can force a vote, but they had to have, it was 2/3, now it's only 3/5. They need 60 of the 100 senators to agree to end the debate for this bill and go to a vote. So what does that mean right now? Well, we have a 50-50 House. There's equal representation. The tiebreaker is Vice President Kamala Harris. The Democrats control the House of Representatives. But since they only have 50-50 in the Senate, they need 10 Republican senators to be okay with forcing the vote and ending the debate on this voting bill. If that happens, that means there's 10 Republican senators that are going to support the bill, and it's going to pass. Yesterday, Biden said he's for changing the rules and eliminating that filibuster, which would then just allow them to, at any time, since the Democrats have a majority, end debate and go straight to voting for the bill. They're hoping probably that Sinema and Manchin, who do not support the voting bill, I don't believe, they can get them on their side, which is easier to do than try and get 10 Republicans on your side. And then they can pass this bill. Obviously, Biden is pitching it as if it's defending the democracy of the United States. When I got done doing the podcast yesterday, actually, during the middle of the podcast, I could hear it downstairs. He was in the middle of his speech. When I got done doing the podcast and I reviewed the speech, I almost went and did another podcast episode. I was livid. Not only was I mad that we have a president that keeps saying the United States is a democracy, not just him though. We have elected leaders that work in our government that keep calling the United States a democracy, for one. But I was livid because this very same people calling to end rules, or the strategy that the Senate uses to really protect minority representation in the Senate, they're the same people that have used it throughout history. This is where we have a problem. We have politicians that are literally okay with being hypocrites. They do not give a shit. They don't care because, 4 years ago when they all were in support of the filibuster and they were using that same strategy that the Republicans were using, they're okay with coming back now and saying we need to get rid of it. It's bad. When they were all on camera supporting it. It's extremely contradicting. And this goes both ways. This is not, again, partisan. This is bipartisan because the Republicans do it too. They both use it. Both sides use this filibuster rule. It's also ironic, though, that the Democratic Party, who prides themselves on standing up for the minorities in the United States, are going to try and change rules that protect minority representation in the Senate to pass a voting bill. So they're saying, oh, minorities are being suppressed when they go to the voting booth. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the rules to pass this voter suppression bill, but the rule that we're changing is actually going to suppress their representation in the Senate. It's kind of back-asswards. Like, furthermore, Biden says he will do whatever it takes to protect the democracy of the United States. The United States is not, I repeat, the United States is not a democracy. We are not a democracy. The United States is a constitutional republic. There is a difference. There's a big difference. I was reading articles last night, doing research on all this, and I probably went through about 10 articles and blogs. Some of them from high-end media talking about ways to make democracy in the United States more equal, and how we need a popular vote in the United States because a popular vote would promote equality among every vote. Like, every vote would be equally weighted. If the same people that think the United States is a democracy and are going to enact legislation as such are the same people that probably think that communism is a successful economic system and, takes care of human rights. In a pure democratic system, the reason it doesn't work is because you have the majority of the vote, like if you're going out with your friends, and you guys are trying to decide where you want to go eat tonight. You take a vote, if there's 10 of you. If 6 people vote, we're going to Chili's, you're going to Chili's. Then you leave 4 people out. Now, when you're voting to, decide where you're going to go eat with your friends that night, that's not a big deal. It's one issue. You guys are kind of going to debate about it, but really, everyone's going to get fed. It just may not be the food that 4 of the 6 people or the 10 people wanted to go, right? But the majority did, so you voted on it. That's a democracy. That doesn't work when you're running a country. It doesn't work when you're running a country because, one, there's so many different issues. There's so many different problems. 2, you have different needs, different demographics, different problems in every location. If you had a popular vote in the United States, you would have about 10 cities all on the coast of the United States that elect the president every time, and every time it would be a Democratic president. There would never be another Republican president. Okay, about 90% sure there would never be another Republican president ever again. There would be Democratic every time, and the president would literally be elected by 10 cities. There would be no representation for the people in the middle U.S. or in the southern U.S. or rural United States. I cannot believe I see articles that not only declare the United States a democracy, which it's not, but also talk about abolishing the Electoral College. The Electoral College is the reason why we are able to have minority groups with as much representation as they have in Washington. Why we are able to get things done for minority groups and different groups of people. Honestly, if you're gay, if you're black, if you're Mexican, whatever it may be, trans, whatever, and you're for abolishing the Electoral College, you have no idea what you're talking about. That is what helps you. yeah, you may want to go back and say, oh, but this system that we built, for if you're black, people would say, well, that oppressed us, that enslaved us, and all that stuff. Yes, it did back then, but it also is a reason why we were able to advance past that and try and move forwards too, and has done more for the rights of minority groups than anything else, because you have representation. In a republic, it's not a 1-to-1 vote, right? And we all just vote and we go off a popular vote. No, we elect people to go and represent us on a bigger stage. It works like that all the way down to our local governments. The United States government is split up: state, local government, then the federal government. Each one of those, we elect representation. We do not go and represent ourselves and debate amongst ourselves about what's going to happen. If we did, then things during COVID would have been a lot different. The other reason why we have the Electoral College, or run things the way we run them, is because why would we allow the stockbroker on Wall Street to elect a leader that's going to tell what the farmer in Iowa is best for him? You're telling me that someone that lives in LA should be able to have full say on who's president without having any consideration of what the needs of the Midwest are? No, it doesn't work like that. The 20 million people living in LA and the 10 million people living in New York do not know what's best for the 7 million people living in Tennessee. Tennessee's a different economy than LA. LA's a different economy than New York. We have the Electoral College because it gives us a weighted vote. Every vote holds weight. Every state holds weight. Every state has a say. Without the Electoral College, you would have a popularity contest every year, and the United States would not be as successful as it is. But people don't understand this. Now, going back to this voting bill, there's going to be severe consequences. Severe consequences. If Joe Biden's able to somehow persuade the Senate to eliminate the filibuster rule, and they can pass the voting bill. Because, first of all, it doesn't just stop with the voting bill. We have November, I believe, is when midterms start. If they eliminate stuff like the filibuster, they can try and force all the agenda matters that Biden has been trying to get into place. They can literally have a clearer path to enact all of that agenda. Obviously, I'm a conservative person. I don't like the majority of the stuff Biden does. But I will say this. I wouldn't want it even if Trump was in office. I wouldn't. Even if it's great policy. You know why? Because that is not how we should work. We don't operate like that. We have a checks and balances system. And we have processes that we do. And as much as I may complain it may be slow, there are reasons why it's in place to protect the people of the United States. It doesn't just start with the voting bill. It's going to trickle down. When they take one right away, they take other rights. We have already seen this in the past year. We see it in other countries. But let's talk about this voting bill. It's H.R. 1, and again, I'm going to pull up the article. With the voting bill, there's a laundry list, not a laundry list, a large list of laws that they are going to implement. New voting laws. And I'm going to pull up here the list I have. Some of it is just outrageous. So, a couple things that it's going to try and do. What they want to do is they want to allow same-day voter registration. Bad idea. Terrible idea. This is what they ran into in Wisconsin during the last election. You have to understand, whether the election was rigged or not, I don't know. Everyone has their opinion on it. Whether it was rigged or not, it was being questioned. Whether you think it was or not, it was still in question. There was still a debate on whether or not it was rigged. Going back to 2016, same thing. Now, in 2016, we started hearing about foreign interference in our elections. And that's been a big thing. They literally spent 4 years investigating Donald Trump and his administration to try and find some kind of tie to Russia and how they meddled in our election, because there was just no possible way that Trump beat Hillary Clinton, right? Yeah, right. 2020, same thing, except it's a little different now. They're talking about voter fraud. They're going back to the mail-in ballots, right? That was a new law that was implemented that allowed people, because of COVID and stuff, to mail votes in. It was sketchy. They want to do same-day registration. In Wisconsin, they already allowed this. If you go look at numbers in Wisconsin, it's crazy seeing the differences and the discrepancies from every year, every voting cycle up until 2020, and how many people came and registered on 2020. Now, more people voted in 2020 than ever in any election that I know around the world in history, probably. I mean, Biden supposedly got 80 million votes and Trump got 65. That's just crazy. But they are wanting you to this. What I want to know, and the problem you'll probably run into here, is people going to different states and being able to register that day on the election and vote. If all the liberals from California went to another state, Texas, or a state that was close, and now they can register and then vote that same day, what's that going to do? You win the state, right? Because the way our voting system is structured, you just got to win the whole state. So if Democrats win the state, now, I mean, all you're doing is you're allowing demographics to be changed per state in the split second. The next one, they want to allow minors to register to vote. I'm going to go back to that one in a second. Third one, they want to prohibit states from requiring anything more than the last 4 digits of a social security number to verify voter identity. So they're going to tell states that they are not allowed to ask for any type of identity other than the last 4 digits of a social security number. That's it. That's a big problem. That's a huge problem, because I guarantee you they're also going to restrict them being able to verify anything on the spot, that's a real number. They're going to allow availability of online voter registration. They're going to give grants to states that promote involvement of minors in election activities. They want to nationalize mail-in voting and make that normal. They want to, here's the big one, allow a sworn written statement to satisfy identification requirements. Basically, they're going to say that all you got to do to prove that you're who you say you are is just sign this piece of paper promising us that you're not lying. You got to be fucking kidding me. There's also writing in the bill when it comes to minors that basically says they're not going to force states to allow minors to vote, but makes it sound like they're going to leave it up to the state to decide if they can lower the voting age from 18 to down to 16 years old. You can't make this up. We don't even let 18-year-olds drink. We don't let 16-year-olds, I don't think, join the military, and they damn sure can't drink. Why would we allow them to vote? Statistically speaking, the majority of 18-year-olds aren't even independent at 18. Let alone 16-year-olds. They're in high school. They're sophomores in high school. You're telling me a sophomore in high school, when I was a sophomore, I was not knowledgeable enough to just go vote. I would probably just voted whoever my dad told me to vote for. Then they want to prohibit states from restricting curbside voting. And then the last one was anyone other than an election official that challenges another individual's voting eligibility can be subject to fine or imprisonment. That means if you are, at the voting booth and you see something and you think that person can't vote, you can't even say anything about it. Or if you're a month before the election, you can't question anyone's eligibility to vote. Now, I'm not saying that that's right. I'm not saying that's the right thing to do. You shouldn't you just mind your own business, right? But fining someone or putting them in jail for just, hey, you're not able to vote. Like, especially if they're not even if they're at the voting booth, that's one thing. But to imprison someone that's accusing someone of something, but when they're not even at the voting booth is just crazy. What the voting bill is going to do is it's actually restricting states from enforcing a lot of the voting laws that are already in place. There's a word called laissez-faire. It's a French word, and it's used in economics. It's basically just a hands-off approach to things. Just let it play out. That's exactly what this voting bill is going to do. They have a whole section in the bill dedicated to talking and implementing laws in ways that they're going to combat foreign interference in our elections. They literally have just a long list of these laws and ways that they're going to eliminate it. The one thing that they don't address is actually having foreign nationals casting direct votes in the election. Now, one would assume that that's illegal, which it is. But they are eliminating all the identification requirements. And the Democrats have some of them have openly stated that they are for allowing illegal immigrants to vote for president because they live here. How can you spend millions of dollars investigating an administration for foreign interference? How can you throw a temper tantrum for Russia supposedly promoting ads on Facebook against one candidate? Freaking advertisement that everyone knows is wrong anyway. How can you get mad at that, but then be okay with illegal residents casting direct votes for the President of the United States? You tell me which one has more of an influence. What? You're going to try and argue with me that foreign interference through use of advertising and trying to sway the opinion of voters is worse than allowing the millions of illegals that are in the country, millions, to now cast a direct vote for the President of the United States. Hell no. Hell no. I'm almost at the opinion that if you want to vote for president, you have to file a tax return and prove that you're a citizen in the United States. But regardless, it's your inalienable right to vote for president if you're a citizen of the United States. A lot of people died for that right. What they didn't die for is allowing people that have come to the country not just illegally, but at all that aren't citizens and able to elect our president. That is much there's no bigger way that a foreign country can interfere in an election other than, like, that's larger than allowing them to vote for it. There's no bigger way that they can influence it. It's mind-boggling. It's truly mind-boggling that they would consider it, but not only consider, just not even address it in the bill. You have to show ID when you go to buy beer. You have to show ID when you go to buy tobacco. You have to show identification and go through a substantial background checks to buy a firearm. When you have a prescription at the pharmacy, you got to go show ID. You got to show ID to drive. You got to show ID to get into the strip club. I mean, you got to show ID a lot. But we're not going to force people to show ID when they go vote in an election that is electing the people who determine the laws for all the stuff I just mentioned. So we don't want, we're going to make you show ID to partake in all of these different things. But we're not going to make you show ID to make to elect leaders to represent you to make laws for or against those things. Yeah. The logic behind this is just crazy. It's not racist to force someone to show identification. It's not even voter suppression. If they can't vote, they can't fucking vote. You either can or can't. In today's day and age, no matter who you are, if you're a citizen, you either can vote or you can't vote. If you're not a felon and you're a citizen, you can vote. Go vote. Now, is it harder for some people because of work and stuff like that? Yeah. Now, the other thing they're going to do, which I guess I'm for, they're going to make it a holiday where everyone's off work and then go vote. Whatever. I think everyone should vote. It's your right to choose not to vote. That's fine. But I think everyone should vote because a lot of people, like I said, died for you to have the right to vote. But with where we're at now, if you showed up, if it doesn't matter if you're white, black, Mexican, whatever. If you showed up late to the ballot box, you can't vote. Regardless of whatever your reason is. You know, there's just certain rules that you have to follow. And there's no one that I have ever seen. Did it used to happen? Yeah, but there's no one I've ever seen sitting there turning people away from the ballot box. You either can or you can't. You're either eligible or you're not. And there's no one other than someone who's like a felon or in extreme circumstances that is a United States citizen that is ineligible to vote. Every law or every bill that the Biden administration has promoted or tried to pass or to have passed, and I talked about this yesterday, every single one of them has been something that's not going to benefit the lower middle class like he says it will. Every time they come up with some kind of legislation that they can talk about and turn and make it sound like it's a great thing. And every time when you actually go and dig into it and see what's in it, it's doing nothing but putting their party in more power. It's for the benefit of the Democratic Party. Our politicians are not doing what is best for the people they're representing. They're only doing what's best for the party they represent. And that's wrong. That is wrong. If you're a Republican and you're doing that, you're wrong. If you're a Democrat and you're doing that, you're wrong. They only care that they stay in power. And they only care that they stay in power and they get their pension whenever they decide to retire. Some of them never retire. Some of them take the Senate and the House to the freaking grave with them. And the idea behind the bill, the voting bill, is not to get, we're only doing it for the rights of the people that are having, being suppressed from voting, the black, we're suppressing black votes, we're suppressing Mexican votes. No, they're not doing it because they care about that. They're doing it because they think those people are going to vote for them. They are only doing it to get votes. Fuck votes. And now I'm getting pissed about it. Honestly. If you're a fucking politician and you're going to Washington, your idea of everything that you're doing and everything you discuss and every vote you cast is only for the benefit of what you think people will like so that you can continue to get votes and get reelected, that's wrong. And the fucking president of the United States, every single one of them, except in my opinion the last one, because he didn't care, every single one of them spends their whole first term trying to get reelected. They play it safe. And you know what? I will actually give Biden credit somewhat because he's actually pushing all this stupid-ass legislation, knowing it's going to screw him. I think he's only doing that, though, because he knows he only has 4 years. He's not going to run for re-election. And they have the majority. So he has other people forcing that. So, I give him credit, but really credit's not due there. But every politician there, all they care about is staying in power. That's not right. You're a public servant. We need to have term limits. They'll never enact that because they want to stay in office. But we need to have term limits. 2 terms. That's it. You'll get more fresh ideas, and you'll get these stupid-ass people out of there. But no one is true to their values anymore. No one in office is. Just maybe a very few. But it's really frustrating when I'm supposed to have a call later. And we're going to try and have a guest on. He's running for Senate. And I'm going to make sure I bring this up when I'm interviewing him. I think they forget why they're running. It all sounds good when they run the first time, but they forget why they're there. As soon as they get there, it's all about staying there. If you're not someone who doesn't give a shit about being reelected, that's the kind of person I want. And why is that? Because they are only going to focus on the matters that are important to them and the people that they're representing. I can't stand when we have these politicians that have been there for 20, 30 years. Now they want to start changing things. Most of them have used this filibuster thing throughout their entire 20-year tenure. Both of them have. So for any Republican or Democrat to sit there and criticize it and want to get rid of it is stupid. But it's aggravating. And now we have a guy that says he gets up there after defending the Electoral College and the filibuster and all that just a couple years ago. Now he's saying he's going to change whatever rule needs to be changed in the Senate to pass this voting bill and protect our democracy. Well, joke's on you, dumbass. We're not a democracy, and you're actually going to crush our democracy, if there was one, by doing that. Because all it's going to do is allow the Biden administration free roam of what they can pass between now and midterms. Eric says, the talk of taking money out of our election system has been talked about for years. I highly doubt that'll happen. Election employees have to be paid. Advertisement isn't free either. You're right, Eric. You know what I think? I think large corporations and stuff, though, shouldn't be allowed to donate any money in any form to any candidate. They should only be able to personally donate, maybe, and obviously vote. But once you're, like, I talked about this yesterday, Pelosi's campaign donors, in the top 20, like 4 of them are companies that Paul Pelosi holds stock in. Microsoft, Google, Amazon, all those. Getting rid of lobbying is what would help a lot of this. Like the Build Back Better plan. I talked about this yesterday. I'll recap today. The Democrats pitch it as a tax cut for the lower middle class. It's not. Well, they just shouldn't, Eric. They just shouldn't allow lobbyists. Period. But it's not. No, I lost my train of thought now. I've been listening to Biden's thing yesterday. Just really got me aggravated. But let me think about how I want to say this. Going back to the Build Back Better plan. It was a huge tax cut for the rich in the blue states. Do you really think that these politicians who run these extremely expensive campaigns, and the majority of that campaign money comes from wealthy and individuals and corporations, are going to do anything other than push legislation in Washington that's going to benefit the people that were donating to their campaigns to keep them employed? No. Why would you bite the hand that feeds you? That's why it's such a joke to me when Democrats say, "Oh, tax the rich, tax these corporations, pay their fair share." Bullshit. Because when you go, the same corporations that they're talking about taxing and making them pay all this money are the same ones that play a huge role in them being in the position that they're in. If Google, think about it, Google probably operates the majority of advertisement that people see today. Everyone's on their phone. Everyone's online reading stuff. Everyone's on YouTube. That's owned by Google. Facebook's another one. These politicians advertise using Google and Facebook. Why would they piss any of them off? They're getting donations from Google and Facebook. They're paying to advertise on Google and Facebook. Why would they aggravate any of them? Because once you do, like Donald Trump did, they censor you. They kick you off of Twitter. They kick you off of Facebook. They ban you. That's the worst thing that could happen to not Trump, because he had such a big following. People were going to find out what he was saying anyway. But someone who is like a smaller House Representative or a senator that's not very well known, they need that. They have to have that. They need that platform. If they piss any of them off and they get censored for saying something that people don't like, it's over for them. It's over for them. Do you really think that there's something in this bill that is in it that's not for the benefit of the people that are promoting the bill? No. We are in a time where it is extremely rare to see any kind of legislation that is proposed solely because it's going to benefit the people that they're representing. I talked about it yesterday with insider trading. And this is kind of a philosophical statement. Okay. I don't know if anyone took... thanks, Class 1. I appreciate it. I think this is the first time you've stopped by the way. I appreciate you being here. But when I had a philosophy class in college, And I remember this statement is, do you help people regardless of how it makes you feel? Or let me say it better. Do you help people because it makes you feel good? Or do you just feel good because you help someone? There's a difference. It's all about intent. Everything is about intent. Going back to the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, right? It was all about intent. What was the reason why he went to the protest? Was his intent truly to just help out, or was his intent to just go there and be there because it was cool and maybe, he could get into a situation? It's all about intent. Uh-oh, Eric. I don't know if you see this, but someone else just entered the room with your name. I think that troll has your name now, Eric.
That's me. That's my secondary account.
Oh, okay. I was just checking in. Scary. But it's all about intent. When people were saying, well, Paul Pelosi was only making trades into these giant blue chip companies like everyone else was doing during the pandemic. And a lot of people made money. It's not like he was finding penny stocks or pink sheets to go invest in and was getting inside information from that. You're right. He was investing in blue chips. The difference is the intent. Why did he make the investment? You can inside trade in blue chip stocks. When you kill someone and you're going to court, it's being charged with murder is about the intent. Because the outcome is the same. Someone died. But it's why did you kill that person? If you did it in self-defense, it's different than you having a premeditated attack because you're just crazy. All intent is everything. And intent with our politicians, when they go and they make legislation, are they only doing it because it's going to benefit the people that voted them in there? Or are they only doing it because it'll make them look good and they'll get votes? Because I guarantee you will never see a policy that will lose them votes, but will be in the benefit of the people they're representing. Never, ever, ever will you see that. Think about it. There's a lot of people that don't understand finance and accounting. They don't understand how tax cuts benefit you. Do you really think that, now, Trump would have probably still promoted the tax cuts, but do you really think that any of those Republicans or Democrats would have voted to enact Trump's tax cuts if they didn't have a feeling that it wouldn't cost them votes? No. Even though those tax cuts helped everybody, it put money into everyone's pocket. Whether you knew how it worked or not, it put money in your pocket. To this day, people still talk shit about the Trump tax cuts. And those same people got a huge tax cut. And I'm not talking about wealthy people. I'm talking about extremely poor people. I'm talking about middle class people. They just don't understand how taxes work and how it all works. But they were mad that it happened. Do you really think that that a politician would ever enact legislation that people will not, will cost them votes, but they're doing it because they know that it's literally in the best interest for the people? No. And that's not how it should be. It's not how it should be. I'm not telling people to go rogue, these senators and representatives to go rogue. They need to listen to the people they're representing. But it also comes back to communicating with the people that you represent and showing them why these bills are going to benefit them and not lying to them about it. So these are just things to keep in mind. Intent is everything. And going back to what I talked about in the beginning, we have a large misunderstanding of what the United States government actually is and how it operates. And that understanding derives from regular everyday people all the way up the chain of the ladder to our politicians that we elect. Going around and throwing that democracy word around is dangerous. They're trying to federalize the presidential election, and that's not how it is, and that's not how it's supposed to be. Every state has a different economy. Every state is its own country almost. And we're band together, by another larger entity, which is the federal government. This is why people say that the Civil War was involving states' rights and not slavery. The misconception is, people think like, oh, it was over slavery. It was over slavery, but not because of slavery in itself, but because of the way that the North was trying to impose laws over slavery in the South. You have to, and look, slavery is not a good thing. It's terrible. I'm not saying that wasn't the right thing to do. What I'm trying to get at is I'm trying to separate people from the emotional side of it and just the put it in the black and white sense. Okay? Doesn't matter how controversial the subject matter is, there's a right way to go about it. Okay? Southern states were pissed at the North for doing things that was going to change their economy and the way of life. Again, to rehash my comment from earlier, it was bad what the South was doing. It's very bad. But also, it's one of those things that if the South didn't stand up for, their rights, each state's right, it's a good thing the South lost, but it also probably helped out the United States in the long run with the way that we operate in the rights that our states have. Because now you can go to Florida to get away from mask mandates in New York. Now you can smoke pot in Oregon and California where you can't in Tennessee. Each state has its own rights and its own laws that they enforce, and the federal government is just a template that they use. There's bigger reasonings, there's broader reasonings than what they kind of talk about in history. And some of these really bad things that occurred in the past, like slavery, okay, the conflicts around those things are what has helped the United States develop into being the powerful country that it is today. The fact that people can sit here and complain about being oppressed or claim that they're being oppressed is different than what you're allowed to do in other countries. In Kazakhstan right now, they are ordered to shoot protesters. Shoot and kill protesters. Could you imagine a riot happening here in the United States and the army coming in and start mowing protesters down dead? I'm not talking about rubber bullets. I'm not talking about tear gas. I'm talking about just straight up lighting them up with bullets. You would have a war over that. Whether you agree with the protesters or not, we would be in an all-out war if that happened. Not in Russia, not in Kazakhstan, not in these countries in the Middle East, not in China. Nope. It's different here. Oppression here is not the same kind of oppression as it is in other countries. Even countries like Australia, who I have ties to, who I've been to Australia multiple times. I love it. But it's not the same. In Australia, they have cameras up on the side of the road. If you're speeding and you go through the speed camera, they give you a ticket. Send it to your house. No different than the traffic light cams here. In Australia, they can pull you over. They can set up a checkpoint at any time and drug test you. You know, we have our little DUI checkpoints they do every once in a while here. They can pull you over in Australia and drug test you. Can you imagine getting pulled over when you smoked pot the day before? Or 2 days before? It's in your system? Class 1, you're right. We don't realize how good we have it. It says if you are arrested in the United Kingdom and you get at... you have to finish that comment. I don't think I understand that comment. But we don't realize how... A lot of people don't realize how good we have it. And a lot of people fail to realize what has advanced human right causes for the black community or the gay community or the trans community, whatever it may be. In every country, there's going to be someone who is racist and doesn't like black people or white people. There's going to be homophobes. There's going to be xenophobes. There's going to be every kind of phobe in every single country. But the difference in the United States is now we literally have government organizations dedicated to helping out extreme minority groups in the United States. Extreme minority groups. I guarantee you, if you have some... Oh, what's up, Shannon? Class 1 says, arrested, you don't get the right to remain silent. Sorry. You're right. So, and that's a big one. You're also, in a lot of countries, guilty until proven innocent, which they're trying to kind of change that here, which is bullshit. You're innocent until proven guilty. The Kyle Rittenhouse case, I was appalled by how they approached that. You know, they basically said that, made it seem like the defense needed to prove that Kyle Rittenhouse acted in self-defense. No. He was up on charges for murder, and the prosecution has to prove beyond reasonable doubt that Kyle Rittenhouse committed murder. If they can't, he's innocent, which is what happened. In some countries, you are literally guilty until innocent. That's not how it works here. But oh, okay, that's Eric. But that's the way we're going in the United States. We're going down this path of we want the majority to make all the decisions and screw the minority. The difference right now is the way the Democrats are looking at it in aspects of voting wise. The minority isn't a particular race or culture. It's all races and culture, white people, black people, whatever, that just don't like them. They would never enact any kind of legislation that is going to take away representation of a minority group if the minority group was, let's just say, black people or Mexicans or just white people. They wouldn't ever do it. First of all, it'd be wrong. It's wrong to do it regardless. But they would never go to a popular vote if all the white people in the country always voted the same way every time. They would never do it. Think about this. If let's just hypothetically say that every white person in the country was Republican and everyone else was Democrat. If they went to a popular vote then, white people 100% of the time would make every decision in the best interest of them and not care about anyone else. It would be foolish to to change where we currently have to go to something like that, right? Well, they're trying to do the same thing. The only difference is that everyone's mixed up. It's not just a specific race that either is for or against a political party. It's a bunch of different, right? You can have black people that vote Republican. You can have Democrat or white people that vote Democrat, whatever. So they don't care. And they don't care about taking representation away in that regards. Do you think that if there was a line between who's gay and who's straight, and all the straight people always voted one way and gay people voted the other way, they would ever enact voting laws that will always sway elections into the favor of straight people? Because straight people have the overwhelming majority. Absolutely fucking not. People will argue, well, they do that anyway. Everyone, press. No, they're not. They do not do that. Everyone has representation. Okay? And they just wouldn't. It wouldn't be fair, right? You can all agree. If you're going to make the argument that well, they do that now. White people make all the decisions, or straight people make all the, whatever. Okay, you want to argue that, but then you're going to support putting in voting laws or any kind of legislation that is going to make that divide even greater. So, when it comes to the right and the left, the observation I have made and why I believe in the things that I believe in is I find that the Democratic Party tends to contradict all the time. They always contradict themselves. You can always go back and find politicians that change their stance. That's going to go on. They lie, they all lie. But I literally saw videos of Chuck Schumer, Joe Biden, 10 different Democratic senators, all in 100% full support of the filibuster and using the filibuster. And now every single one of them are against it because they control the House, the Senate, and the White House. What I tend to find is the issues that we face in the United States, Democrats contradict them in a bad way and their opinions on it, right? The biggest one is trickle-down economics. First of all, trickle-down economics doesn't even exist. The Republicans, or Ronald Reagan did not come up with trickle-down economics. Trickle-down economics the idea has been around long before Ronald Reagan. Okay? All Reagan did was use the Laffer curve. Again, has nothing to do with trickle-down economics. It just talks about the relationship between tax brackets and tax revenue. That's it. So people argue, oh, well, trickle-down economics doesn't work. Reagan did trickle-down economics. It didn't work. The rich doesn't pass down all the gains that you give to them through tax cuts. They don't pass it down to their workings. You're probably 100% right. Trickle-down economics doesn't work. But what you're forgetting is that trickle-down economics is not a one-way street. Trickle-down economics actually works extremely well, but not in the same way that everyone keeps saying it works. Trickle-down economics, in regards to giving tax cuts to the rich and hoping that that all flows through down to the poor, we're not arguing that. But trickle-down economics, where you increase expenses on the rich, 100% is put on the backs of the lower and middle class. Reverse trickle-down economics works 100% of the time. Think about this. The Democrats say, we're not going to cut taxes on these people because they don't share it. But they want to increase expenses on them. And there's a direct relationship with increasing expenses on a business and negative impacts on the employee. Because 35% of the cost when you increase taxes on a corporation is passed down to the employee. The employees bear the burden, 35% of the burden of increased taxes on a business. They bear it in the form of lower wages or being laid off or reduced benefits. Increased overhead is always trickled down to the lower middle class. Always. We're seeing that with inflation. Inflation right now today was at 7% for the year. All index inflation is at 7%. It's a chain reaction, right? When you increase when the cost of producing a good goes up for a business, they have to make it back up. They charge more on the back end. Or when they're selling that product after it's done, they have to recoup that cost because businesses are going to keep their profit margins, as they should. They got to survive. The majority of businesses have very narrow profit margins. So when you're gonna, narrow the gap of revenue and income even more, it's going to trickle down to the workers. If a business look at COVID, we shut COVID down, or we had the COVID lockdowns. What did the airline industry start doing when they had to cancel flights? They laid off employees. We spent a whole fucking year watching these companies lay people off because they weren't allowed to work and make money. But we have dumbasses that want to tax the shit out of these corporations and think that it's only going to benefit the workers. No, it won't. Because trickle-down economics does work, just not in the way that you think it works. And so that's pretty contradicting of the Democratic Party. It's extremely contradicting. The other thing, we want to implement vaccine mandates. We want to force people to take a vaccine. How can you be all about my body, my choice, but you're going to force someone to take a vaccine? Now, people argue, what, Michael, we've had to take polio vaccines and smallpox vaccines to go to school and all that. You know what the difference is? A vaccine takes like several years of testing and perfecting before they actually start putting it into the population. The other thing is a vaccine for the smallpox and polio completely eliminates the possibility, for the most part, of getting any of those diseases. Again, for the most part, there's probably exceptions to the rule, but you can count on being safe from the smallpox and polio vaccine. You can also count on not getting polio or smallpox once you get the vaccine. The COVID vaccine is not the same. The COVID and the flu vaccine aren't even the same. They don't mandate the flu vaccine. Why not? They don't mandate it because it doesn't work the same. You have to get it every year. But they're going to mandate the COVID vaccine, which, it works. Statistically speaking, if you're going to go off the data, it works. I'm not saying not to get vaccinated, but you're mandating something that you can still get the illness. You can still die from the illness. And if you get the COVID when you're vaccinated, you can still give it to people. You're still contagious. How can you mandate something and say, my body, my choice? They want to allow people to have abortions, some places up to 9 months into the pregnancy, because of my body, my choice, but you're going to force me to take a fucking shot? That makes sense? A shot that's only been tested for less than a year? Or a year now, we'll say? So we have a year of research. When you go and read the CDC data, they didn't really do a whole lot of human trials for certain tests, like tests on fertility and stuff like that. I've read a few studies that there wasn't like a whole lot to back that up. But you're going to force us to do that. Otherwise, you're going to threaten employment. But you're okay with me going and killing a human being. Or not me, because I can't get pregnant. But you're okay with a woman going and having an abortion. And let me clarify my stance on abortion here. If it's like something like incest or rape or there's something wrong with the child, like drastically wrong with the child, then I'm okay with it. But just going to get an abortion because you went out and screwed up and you didn't want to use a condom? No, absolutely not. You have to assess the risk with certain things, right? We can't just teach people to go out and just, oh, fuck all. I'm going to go screw everyone, no protection, nothing. That would be extremely careless, right? So why not focus on preventative stuff? I'm not talking about abstinence. I'm talking about just why aren't we, pushing using contraceptives more before it gets to the point that we have an actual living being? Because, again, with this argument, we have when a woman gets killed and she's pregnant, she gets murdered. I've said this before. When a woman gets murdered and she's pregnant, I'm pretty sure it counts as a double homicide. How can it be a double homicide if a fetus isn't a living, doesn't count as a person, you're allowed to, the woman's allowed to kill it? So you're telling me that if a man or a woman kills another woman who's pregnant, she's going to go to jail for killing two people. But when the very woman that is pregnant with the baby decides to kill that baby, she's at home in an hour. So, that's just, it's certain arguments with the left, with the policy, they contradict themselves. It doesn't carry over. Republicans can contradict themselves, but, I feel like they have a little bit more of an argument. Like myself, I just don't think the abortion thing is cool. And people say, well, you're my body, my choice with the vaccine. Why not the abortion? Well, the difference is because the vaccine is just going into my arm. The abortion, in my opinion, is altering another human being. It's affecting another person. But then people say, well, you're affecting another person by not getting vaccinated. No, you're not. I'm sorry. If I'm not vaccinated, but everyone else is, they should be good if the vaccine works. So, I just, going back to what I was talking about in the beginning, it's not just the voting bill. It's the reasons behind the voting bill. And now we have people that were all mad about Republicans wanting to change rules because they couldn't win. They're literally right now trying to change rules because they can't win. It goes both ways. They're both at fault. You know what they should do? They should just shut the fuck up about eliminating the filibuster. Both sides, the Republicans and Democrats, should shut the fuck up about it and not say another word. I'm surprised that, it won't even happen. You know why it won't happen? Because as it stands, the Democrats risk losing the majority of the House and Senate in the midterm elections. And when they do, they're going to need something in their back pocket in the way of a filibuster to help them. It just wouldn't be in their best interest. So, that's kind of what the deal is. And I was livid yesterday reviewing Biden's speech about it. But it doesn't surprise me. By the way, I want to leave this with people. And Eric in class 1, I'll ask the question. You can try and answer it. Do you know what the most famous example of the Senate using the filibuster is? And I'll kind of let that, let people bask in that and answer it, see if anyone can answer it. All right, last one. So the most famous example was Democrats using the filibuster to delay or try to stop the passing of the Civil Rights Act in the 50s and 60s. And even crazier fun fact about that is the same people that were a part of the Democratic Party at the time that used that filibuster to try and stop the Civil Rights Act from going into or from being passed are the same people that Joe Biden worked with to write the 1994 crime bill. Same people. You can go fact check that. So when Biden's up there calling everyone segregationists for opposing, his idea to get rid of the filibuster and not pass this, if you don't support the voting laws, you're a segregationist. Says the guy who worked with segregationists to enact a crime bill that has impacted the millions of lives of black Americans. Negatively, too. Not even in a good way. So that's just a fun fact I'll end with there. We will be back on tomorrow, probably afternoon. Gotta go in the office. Again, don't forget to check out the federalreport.com. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast and on Facebook. I will see you guys later. Thank you.